I sat there beside him trying to think of questions that would bleed him so I can get out of his face fast. He looked exactly like a withered baboon. His breath stunk like he had just eaten a bowl of maggots. I said, "Weeping, Pepper hasn't got my nose open for her. She's too jazzy and slick for me. I came to you because everybody knows that your game is mellow. I want you to pull my coat so I can pimp some scratch out of her." The baboon liked that banana I threw him. He was ready to talk the pimp game. He said, "The suckers in hell want ice water, but it's late for them. They ain't never going to get no ice water. The way you start with a bitch is the way you end with a bitch. You can start pimping hard on a bitch and then sucker her out and blow her, but ain't no way you can turn it around and pimp on Pepper after starting with her like a sucker. Forget her and get down on a fresh bitch." I said, "You mean there is no way to get any scratch out of her?" He said, "Nah, you see, I didn't say that. I said you couldn't pimp any scratch out of her. A foxy, cold-blooded stud can always find an angle to cross a broad out of scratch." I said, "I'm not foxy, but I think I could be cold-blooded enough to cross that slick bitch Pepper." "Weeping, you are the fox. Lay some game on me and put me to the test. I'll split any scratch I take right down the middle with you." I hadn't noticed it was raining. Now it was raining hard enough so that Weeping had turned to run up the window on his side. He had just raised it and was about to answer my proposition when there was a frantic rapping on his window. It was one of his whores. Through the closed window of the locked door, she said loudly, "Daddy, open the door. My feet are soaked. Nothing is happening out here tonight, and besides, I am hot as hell. The Vice is watching me. It's Costello. He told me to get off the street or he would bust me. Please open the door." Weeping was a cold gorilla, all right. He sat there for a long moment. His monkey face was tight and hard. He casually opened the wind wing as the rain beat down on his whore. She stuck her nose through it. Without moving toward the wing, sitting erect in the car seat, he hollered, "You bullshit bitch! Make something happen! You a whore! You supposed to be hot! Let Costello bust you! He can't make a beef stand up unless he catches you with the trick, you dumb chicken-hearted bitch! What do you think I got this ass pocket full of fall scratch for? Now, get out there and work! Don't worry about the rain! Walk between the raindrops, bitch!" He slammed the wing shut. Her face was wild and angry through the murky glass. Her dope-rotted teeth were ragged fangs in the dimness as she pressed her face close to the glass. She screamed, "You just lost a girl. You had 4. Now you got 3. I'm cutting you loose, shorty." Weeping let his window down, stuck his head out into the rain as she walked away. He was all gorilla now. He screamed, "Bitch, I give you odds you won't split. As much of my dope you've been shooting, I'm playing catch-up. You rank bitch. You know if you split, I'll find you and stick my knife in your stinking ass and gut you to your breastbone." I wondered if he had lost her. He read my mind. He said, "She ain't going nowhere. Look at this." He turned his car engine on and started the windshield wiper so we could see the street. There she was, back out there in the rain, whistling and waving at the passing cars. He turned the engine off. He said, "That bitch knows I ain't jiving. She'll make me some scratch this morning. Now, Youngblood, about Pepper. You don't know anything about her. You ain't long out of the joint. I like you, so my advice is the same I gave you at first. Forget her. Try in another spot." When he said about my not knowing her made me curious, I said, "Look, Weeping, I know you like me, and if you do, Run Pepper down for me." "Did you know that peck of wood of Pepper's is the bankroll behind the biggest policy wheel in town?" I said, "No, but if the old man is flush, isn't that good? Why give Pepper up because she's in shape? If you gave me an angle, I can get some of that policy scratch." "Look, Blood, brace yourself. Here's the rest of the rundown. Pepper is a rotten freak broad. You ain't the only stud she freaks off with. I could name a half-dozen who ride her. The dangerous one is Delansky, the detective. He is in a bad way over Pepper. If he ever found out you were freaking off with her, Blood, shame on your ass." I was shaken by the rundown. Like a sucker, I believed I was the whole show in her love life. I was thinking like the young punk I was. I said, "Are you sure there are that many studs laying her?" He said, "Maybe more." I had a bellyache and a worse headache. I felt lousy. I mumbled, "Thanks for the advice and the rundown, weeping." I got out of the Buick and walked home in the rain. When I got there, it was 3:30, and Mama was angry, worried, and raving. She was right, of course. I was violating my parole to be out after 11 p.m. I was coming out of the drugstore to make a delivery when I bumped into him on the sidewalk. It was old party time. While doing his year for our caper, he had copped a Lonely Hearts broad through the mails. She went his train fare. He finished the bit and went to visit her and made a home. She had died, and the home went to relatives who threw him out. After 5 bits, he was still full of crooked aspiration. I liked him, but not enough to join him again in a hustle. I had only been out 4.5 months. I cooled it and avoided him in a smooth way. I hadn't touched Pepper in a week. She had called the drugstore twice just before closing. She had made licking and sucking sounds to get me out to her place. I made excuses and put her off. I wondered at the time why I was so important when she was a douchebag for that mob that was laying it into her. The day before Weeping brought me a proposition, Delansky, the roller, came into the drugstore for cigarettes and gave me a thoughtful look. I was walking home. It was my day off. It was Saturday night around 9. I had been to see a prison movie. It was a grim drama. A young green punk tried to double-cross. He was crisscrossed into the joint. He made deadly enemies while doing his long bit. When he got out, a long black short pulled up and riddled him with a Tommy gun. A big black car was pulling to the curb toward me. There was something familiar about the small pinhead driver. It was Weeping. He jerked his head and opened the car door. I went over and got in. He was excited. At first I thought because his car was clean. He told me, "Blood, put a smile on your face. Old Shorty's got good news for you. How would you like a half a G in your slide?" I said, "All right, give me the poison and take me to the baby." He said, "I ain't shucking. It's cream puff work. In fact, tender dick is what you like to do best. Want the rundown? If you're going to tell me some broad is going to lay out 500 frog skins to get her rocks off, say it. I would lay a syphilis patient that died a week ago for that kind of scratch." Then he said, "Pepper is the broad. All you have to do is take her to bed and go through a full circus with her. That's all. Are you game?" "Yes, if I can get a rake off from the bleacher seats," I said. "And you tell me who wants the show on." His eyebrows jitterbugged. He was a slick joker. I should have run from him. He said, "No, I can't tell you who. Don't worry about the scratch. It's guaranteed. Are you in?" I said, "Yes, but I want to know more. Like why?" The tale he told me went like this. A fast hustler from New York who specializes in pressure rackets saw a chance to trim Pepper's old man out of a bundle. The hustler knew that Pepper was a dog and a freak. He also knew that Pepper's old man was hung up on her. Even though he had met her in a whorehouse and squared her up, he was dangerously jealous of her and unpredictable if he caught her wrong. The hustler felt that Pepper would be in a sweet state for pressure if solid evidence could be gotten showing Pepper as the dog she was. The hustler was sure that he could force her to help him in his scheme to trim the old man. He needed clear, unfaked photographs. His plan would be simple. Once he got the club over Pepper's head, he would force her to sneak in phony hit slips against the policy wheel. The hustler had discovered that for Pepper, from her inside position in the wheel, it would be very simple. The hustler would pay me $5 after I had brought Pepper to a prearranged setup. I was all for the scratch, and eager to give Pepper some grief for the way she had used me and outslicked me. Weeping told me the trap was set. I was to wait until Pepper itched enough to call me. I was not to call her. Whenever she called, I was to tell her to meet me in the bathroom of an old but still elegant hotel on the fringe of the arcade and shooting gallery section of town. I was then to call him. I was to make sure that at least 2 hours passed between her call and when I went to the desk and asked for the key to apartment 214. My name would be Barksdale. That name I'll never forget if I live to get 100. On the third day after I had gotten the rundown on the trap, Pepper called the store. It was 8:55 p.m., 5 minutes before closing. I answered the phone. She was burning blisters for one of our parties. She invited me to her place as usual. I told her that I had to tidy up the store and also mail an important package at the downtown post office for my boss. I asked if she could get dressed and meet me by 10:30 in the ballroom of the hotel. It would be more convenient that way. She agreed. I called weeping. He told me to maneuver Pepper's face towards the head of the bed as much as possible when we got into the act. I went to the ballroom and drank a rum and coke until she got there. I almost felt sorry for her when I saw her coming through the door. She looked so innocent and clean, not at all like the cruddy filly that humped up a funky lather beneath a mob of jockeys. We took a booth so that I could watch the clock. She was Jacqueline the Ripper with a fly, but she had a great gentle touch inside, if you know what I mean. She was a space buff, all right. She was checking out my readiness for entry into her inner space. At 11 sharp, Mr. and Mr. Barksdale picked up the key to their pad. We walked onto the stage. Wyatt Earp would have gone ape over the pad. It was overstuffed, horsehair living room, gleaming brass bed, giant cherubs on the wall, Gideon Bible on the marble, top bedroom table, midget efficiency kitchen cubicle. So what? We hadn't come to cook. High on the wall over the bed were the 2 gold-colored cherubs. Their eyes were